Hello, everyone. Welcome back into the LFC Transfer Room. Today we have a live stream on this lovely Tuesday afternoon, evening, wherever you are tuning in from. I'm Jack, joined by Jay, Tino, and Louis for what should be a nice one. We had some, again, as always with Liverpool news, coming out of nowhere. Diogo Jota signing a new long-term contract this morning, UK time. So really, it's a big, nice, positive day. Low energy stream for all of us. But Jay, this evening, afternoon, how are you doing?
Very good, mate. Excited that we're only a couple of days away from the Premier League starting again. I'm obviously excited we're playing Saturday, but I'm just as excited for the game Saturday, to be honest. It's just Premier League football being back.
That Friday Premier League game is always a fun one, just because it's back. It's like Christmas Day, but for us sporting nerds. Louis, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the Premier League as well. It has been a little bit too long, hasn't it? It's going to be a bit of an odd season with the World Cup kind of interjecting it. Not something that many of us would have seen or experienced in our lifetimes. But yeah, excited to be back into the full flow of things.
And Tino, my friend, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, like the other guys, it's just the Premier League's back. That's the main thing. I'm glad pre-season's over. I just want to start the Premier League, boss everybody, win the title by January, and then just relax the rest of the season.
We can only hope. It's over by the World Cup, and then we can just kind of watch the World Cup and then just kind of have fun for the rest of the season. That's the dream.
Exactly.
Maybe even the Champions League can be decided by the World Cup. Maybe it is. We have an ITK in the comments. Hi, Lore, saying that he knew about Jota 4 weeks ago. The fact you're not giving us the scoops is frankly disgraceful. You need to be giving us, the inside. So tell us when we're signing a new midfielder, and all will be forgiven. But Jota, the big news, contract till 2027. The majority of our players now 5-year contracts in terms of, I think all of our main forwards, Diaz, Nunez, Jota, and then Salah, obviously with the 3-year contract. Jay, just your immediate reactions to seeing the Jota extension.
Amazing, mate. I feel like Jota's a little bit underappreciated, to be honest. The job he's done for us last season, I thought, was phenomenal. When Salah and Mane went, he carried us in terms of scoring goals. So he's still a good age. He's only going to get better, you'd think, the longer he's with us. So really positive news, mate. I'm amazed up for him. And I was a little bit worried that because when Diaz come in, obviously he didn't play as much. So I thought Jota might be half thinking, do I need to go to be a starter somewhere here? So the fact he sounds positive that we're keeping all our best players.
Louis, for you, on Jota, you mentioned Jay mentioned at the very end there, Diaz, Nunez, a lot of competition for the places. The contract extension that surely signs. Well, I mean, obviously it does. That he has a long-term future with Liverpool. How much do you kind of see him pushing into that first team now with the new signings that have been brought in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mirror Jay's views as well, that he has been underappreciated. And to save face, I feel like I was probably one of those people at some point last year. I mean, at what point did just being at one point the second highest goal scorer in the league become like almost secondary? We were describing him as like, well, he only scores goals. That's all he does for the team. But like, what more are you expecting from a striker / winger? But no, I think he's definitely a massive part of what Klopp and the management team want to build upon. He's someone that they all speak very highly of him all the time. And I think his journey's still just beginning. Like, he had that breakout year when he first joined, and we all sort of fell in love with him quite quickly. In lots of different games, it's clear that he's instantly kind of attuned to the culture. Like, the one that comes to mind was that Leicester game in the Carabao Cup when the Leicester fans turned quite nasty, and then when we came out and won it, he got the winning penalty, and he knew exactly what he was doing, giving it all that, riling them up. Like, that kind of stuff's like really good to see a player sort of just getting it so quickly. So no, very, very positive news. And the other thing I was going to mention, Luis Diaz, when he came in, he was kind of that new shiny thing, wasn't he? And I think Diaz suffered as a result in the immediate after that. He became sort of old news. This is the year. He's going to make a strong comeback. I can feel it. And he's going to make sure we all remember his name.
And Tina, for you, the timing of the contract is very interesting. The announcement of the contract, because before the season starts, he's actually been injured for most of preseason, if not all of it. The timing of it, positive. What does that indicate to you based on when you've seen the contract be announced?
I think it makes sense. Like he hasn't played a game in a single minute in preseason because of the hamstring injury. He's expected back hopefully in 2 weeks' time, according to Dominic King. So I think it makes sense, the timing of it, really. Injured, you look at him, you know that it's been sort of reported a couple of weeks ago that there was rumours about discussions. I didn't expect it to be this quick, but I think it makes total sense given his injury. And like I say, I think Lewis made a really, really good point about Luis Diaz coming in, and then everybody just seems to forget about Diogo Jota, and it sort of stems back to Jay's point of him being incredibly underappreciated. I mean, last season he got 21 goals and 8 assists. In all competitions in 55 games, which is an unbelievable return. I think we all look at the numbers and the stats that Mohamed Salah's putting out, and the yearly, every single year, the stats that he's putting out, and think everybody should hit those numbers. And I think we don't, or we tend to at times not appreciate how impressive some of the other guys are around in comparison to Mohamed Salah. What is also on the back of that Diogo Jota news, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, is the other players sort of highlighted and linked with new deals. Naby Keita, Harvey Elliott. There's potential discussion about Bobby's. The fact that we're getting all these players in and talked about and making sure we're on the right track with the new deals with Salah, with Gomez, is amazing to see, because we're setting ourselves up for the long term to make sure we don't falter, and we really build off a platform of strength. That's the main thing that Liverpool are doing, which is really great to see.
Tino mentions there, Jay, that the knock-on effect and the other players in the squad. I want to focus on Nunez in specific and kind of that battle for the number 9 position. How important is Jota for you in terms of raising the standard of Nunez and almost offering in a similar role that he did against Firmino when he kind of was in a dip in form? He stepped in, scored a bunch of goals. How important is it for Nunez's first season to have a guy like Jota hot on his heels, or even pushing him down in the pecking order to be that starting number 9?
It's huge, mate, because that's how you get the best out of the player. You know, if I'm not on it, the other fella in my position is, so I'll lose my place. You seen last season, we've all said on these streams many a time that Mane was a shadow of himself for 12 to 18 months before he got back from AFCON. I don't think it's a coincidence that when we signed Diaz, Mane started getting the numbers that he used to get and started looking a lot more like the player that we were used to. Obviously, I appreciate he was playing false 9, which is something he wouldn't normally do. But I think when you've got a quality player pushing you, you know you have to be at your best to play, which it brings out the best, the competitiveness. So it's massive, it's huge, mate. It's boss to know that even if one of them has an injury, you've got a quality replacement there, lines up like Simicast and Robbo, and the options we've got at centre-half as well. So, yeah, it's dead positive, mate, and it should bring out the best of both of them.
Bring out the best of both of them, Louis, and kind of staying in a similar vein. I think you mentioned it kind of for wingers, for forwards, they just score goals as an insult when that is kind of the biggest function of a player, is to score goals when you matches. With Jota and Nunez, you could probably make that a very similar claim about both of them, where their best attribute is their goal scoring, and they sometimes can lack in other departments. On a pessimistic side, could it be a detractor to have two guys like that who their biggest and most primary function is getting the ball in the back of the net, but they may not be able to coexist because one of them needs to be able to create for the other, or something like that? Some sort of a more pessimistic view on the contract, I guess, is the question I'm asking.
No, I don't think I could give you an honest pessimistic view. I think the options that we've got are quite exciting. I mean, obviously Nunez is probably the only out-and-out striker Firmino is that false nine. Jota, I don't know what the best way to describe him would be, but it's just another chink in our art. Well, that's not the right word, is it? It's just another strength that we've got, another way to change a game if it's not going our way, another substitute we can make with 5 substitutes. Imagine, you start Firmino, he's not doing so great. You can bring on either Nunes or Jota, depending on how you think the game is going. So no, I don't think there's any way for me to think of this pessimistically, or that we shouldn't have given him a new deal.
I guess then,
I've got nothing for him.
and then a positive aspect then on that, what do you see as the next evolution of Jota to kind of bring him to the next level, either in this system as an individual player? What do you want to see him do next to kind of just become a better player going forward?
I think it'd be great if he could really solidify exactly what his main position is. Like, Salah, we know, can play as a central striker if he needs to, but he is our right winger, isn't he? And Mane, until those last few months, was our left winger. Jota, it's a little bit more up in the air. Like, I think a lot of people prefer he plays centrally. I think a lot of people think he doesn't offer as much on the left wing. If he can really solidify what his position is, really discover himself this year, again, I think this is going to be a massive year for him. That's definitely his next step. Just working out exactly what he is and what he can offer this team.
Makes sense. For Tino, for you, look at that first season he comes in. He scores 13 goals in 30 appearances across all competitions, with an assist knocked in there as well. And you had mentioned the stats this past year in a whopping, I didn't realize there was that many games, but 55 matches. Didn't start all of them, obviously, but like 55 matches, scoring 21 goals, getting 6 assists. How many goals and assists is a successful season? Is he going to upgrade again, adding 8 goals in between those seasons? Or what do you see as the next season for Jota?
I think that's a tough question. He has to match what he's done so far last season. He has to, and it is a big season for him. Like Louis mentioned, it is a big season for him. I think long term he transitions into that Bobby role, if Bobby leaves, and in that case, I think his numbers drop. I think I'd be happy in all competitions with 25 goals as a base minimum in all competitions, providing he's used as that central player, because I'm one of those people who I don't think he offers too much on the wing. I think he'll work hard. I think he'll track back. But going forward, I'm not a huge fan of him on the wing. I think we've got more impressive, more creative outlets on the left wing in Luis Diaz. I'd even, if I'm being brutally honest, I'd even play Harvey Elliott on the left wing rather than Diogo Jota. So I'm one of those people who have been critical of him quite heavily in the past. So I think his main route into this Liverpool side is that central false 9 role, because Nunes coming in is going to take a while to bed in. When he comes back from his injury, Jota is a perfect opportunity to lay this challenge down to Firmino and to the club and say, I'm the guy. I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be the one who replaces Firmino. This is why you don't give him a new contract.
I'm very interested in how his role looks like this year, because with the 5 subs, I think he's one of the first guys off the bench, or he's off the bench in every match he doesn't start. I think he is as perfect a super sub as you could ask for. Because I agree with you, Tino. I think that off the wing, I don't like his ability to take on defenders. His creativity, it lacks at times. His movement is really nice. So I think he's only really good off the left if he has a guy like Bobby in the 9. So he has someone who can drag defenders out, and he can kind of fill that more central space sometimes. I'm interested as a sub. He could be one of our big super subs, just coming on, nicking a goal late on. I'm very interested in how that goes. Jay, for you, a good season for Jota. What does that look like numbers wise next season?
I agree with Tino in the sense that similar numbers is more than acceptable, to be honest. And the reality is his numbers are going to go down because Salah and Mane are an AFCON this year, which then guaranteed starts Jota would have had. He's probably not going to have this season, especially now you're putting Núñez in the fold, who's obviously going to play the central position. I can't see him playing on the left. Diaz has made the left side his own as well. Again, though, it's that thing I said earlier about him being underappreciated, saying, oh, you can bring Jota on every game off the bench. He's a better player than coming off the bench to make cameos or super sub appearances. I rate him highly, so I think in all competitions, if he got 25 to 30 combined goals and assists, I'd be more than happy with that, because it's like you've said yourself, he probably isn't going to start every game, but when he does start, he needs to put his numbers up to try and obviously push the other lads to get the best out of them as well to try and keep his place.
Louis, I'm thinking 25 is quite high. I think that Jay and Tino are putting the expectations quite high. Where do you stand? I'll let you round out the opinions on the goal expectations for next year for Jota.
I think it goes to show what we've been treated to the last few years, doesn't it? Like, not with just Jota, but with Salah, with Mane, even like, Firmino at the height of his powers. 25 for the majority of players is a very good return. I appreciate that it's like in all competitions, etc. I feel like for the majority of this season, unless there's an injury, he may well find himself, at least at the start, operating as our Origi. So with those 5 substitutes, I think it will be rotation between Núñez and Firmino. And I think until Jota is back up to match fitness, because he's missed pre-season, until he's truly ready and is able to demonstrate that to the management and on the pitch, etc. I think he could find himself in a bit of a bit part role, which is not something to be sniffed at anyway. And if we are considering him as closer to Firmino in terms of style than Núñez, then I wouldn't expect him to reach what he did last year if that's the way that we think his career is going to go. The false 9 is much more about creating overloads in the middle, generating space for the wingers who operate as inside forwards, etc. If things stay similar and Jota's embedded into that kind of role, I think we're looking more at the teens as a good season for him. And we all know that goals, whilst they are massively important, are not necessarily the only way to rate a player. Otherwise, we wouldn't rate Firmino as highly as we do.
And in terms of the goals, it's very interesting. Last few years, we haven't had 3 or more 20-plus goal scorers in all competitions. This year we did. We had Salah, Mane, Jota, and Jota got 21. The 2 years prior, that didn't happen. There was, in the year we won the title, 1920, in all competitions, it was Salah with 23, Mane with 22, Firmino with 10 in 1920. And that's your top 3 scorers. So the goals are much more spread out amongst the players below there. So it's interesting for Jota, how many he'll get this year compared to last year, which was kind of an interesting one with the 21 goals because of AFCON and other factors there. I'm interested in how he kind of recovers from this injury. Looking at the kind of next few matches, next few weeks, Tino, you mentioned 2 weeks until he's back from injury. How soon until he's back ingrained in the side, week in, week out, involved?
Yeah, I think the 2 weeks was in reference to him being back in training. I'd be very surprised if we saw him this side of September. Like, there's no way for me he's coming back and playing at least 90 minutes before mid-September. I think he might make a couple of cameo appearances at the beginning of September, but not anytime soon for me, because the amount of the intensity we work at, we play and we press to such a high level, you can't risk a player coming back not fully fit because it's just going to make that injury worse. I would like to see him back sooner, but it's one of those where you've got to put the player first and think we have got some very good backups, some very good youngsters, and we've got we were in a position where we can stylistically change how we play, and we're so fluid going forward in terms of our attacking phase that him not necessarily playing isn't going to be this huge be all end all ruining the start of our season. So I'd be very surprised to see him back anytime before mid September, unless it's like a cameo at the end of the game. Because it takes a while. He hasn't had any preseason minutes whatsoever. He's missed that completely because of the injury. So it's going to take him, even if he is back in training in 2 weeks, it's going to take him at least 3 to 4 weeks to get fully up and running. And then he's got to get match fit and actually play matches. So it's a huge, I think a lot of the time people miss or don't really understand how important preseason is, because you have that big break, you have that month off or whatever it is from the end of the season to the start of the new one, and then getting back into that rhythm is really, really tough, and it's about grinding and working hard, and he hasn't had any of that. So it's going to be a really, really tough thing for him to get back up to speed anytime soon.
Jay, building off of what Tino said, I'm going to give you a date. September 18th, we play against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. After that, it's 2 weeks off for the first international break of this season. Is he playing major minutes before or after that international break?
I think after is when you'll see him in his full peak fitness, because you'll probably play games for Portugal, which I hate international breaks, but that one falls quite nicely in terms of getting Jota fit. I think he'll make 30-minute sub appearances prior to the international break, and he might even start a game. But I think if he does start a game, he wouldn't finish it. Tino, spot on. You can even be fit, but you've got to have a rhythm of games to be playing at the level of the rest of the players. So even being fit isn't just enough. You've got to have the momentum of playing games and the rhythm of playing games. So I think it's probably going to be after that international break that you've just mentioned that before we'll get to see Jota at his absolute best. But like I said, I think he'll still play minutes here and there before then, but I think you'll see the best of him after the international break in September.
Yeah, we'll do a quick poll. We're seeing, major minutes. I agree with you guys after that international break, much later in September. 20 days from now, we play at Old Trafford against United. Does he make any minutes in this match? Does he make any minutes? It could be just 5 minutes at the very end of the match. Does he even touch grass in that match against United?
I would say I think it's too early. I think it's too early. I wouldn't risk him in a game as big as that. I think it's too early.
3 weeks from now, I'm inclined to agree. I think that seems a bit early, but then again, the question is, who's the option that you're going to? Maybe it's just he's that guy you want to go to. I don't know. It's an interesting question there. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought there. There was an interesting comment that I want to bring up, a complete change in topic, but there was news that came out earlier today with, trying to find the comment. Here it is. Carney Chukwuemeka going from Villa to Chelsea for £15 million. And then the rumors that Villa might want to replace him with Curtis Jones. It then stems into what Liverpool do in the midfield. Tyler Morton going out on loan, Oxlade-Chamberlain out for 2 months with an injury. And maybe it's related to Jota. Okay. This is somewhat related. Jota kind of finishes off our complement of forwards pretty nicely, pretty sweetly. Is the squad perfectly assembled? That's the question I'll ask. And Louis, I'll go to you first on that. It's a very loaded question. How well assembled is the squad, and what else could be done, seeing what's happening elsewhere in the market?
I think it's an easy slam dunk for me to say we probably need a midfielder, don't we? I looking at all the regulars in the live chat, I struggle to see one who would disagree with that. Yeah, for me, our attack, as you say, is solid. Our defense is immense. I can't remember who said it on here, but I believe we probably got two of the best centre-back combinations in world football at the moment.
Was that not you, Louis, who said that we have the 3 best center back combos?
No,
Gomez, Van Dijk?
someone else said that, but it was me and you who were on it as well. I can't put the quote
I'll
to the
find
face.
it. I'll go find it.
But yeah, Van Dijk and Konate, and Van Dijk and Matip. Van Dijk and Gomez is maybe up there. Give Gomez some time. We need that box-to-box midfielder to maybe start to replace Henderson. I don't think Henderson is still capable of a performance. Yes, there we go. It was Anthony. There we go. We've solved it. Henderson's still capable of performances. He is the leader in the dressing room. He can be consistent when he needs to be. But we've got to start future planning for that as well. And no, for me, it is probably that right-sided 8 where we just need that one little bit of quality and someone who can make the role their own. But maybe that is Harvey Elliott. I don't know. But with the injuries coming through, Oxlade-Chamberlain's injured. Keita's ill. He's not injured, so that's okay. Curtis Jones has picked up a little niggle as well. So, I feel like we are only an injury or 2 away from uproar among some people in the fan base.
Here's how I related to Jota. I figured out how to relate it to Jota. So, Tino, we saw Jota come in, help. We've seen Diaz help Mane knock on. We've seen Jota come in, kind of helped Firmino. I don't want to say Firmino kind of really has been great since Jota's arrival. This has been kind of a decline in his career generally, but it helped our squad. It helped us kind of ease that burden off of him. When you see those signings and the competition for places they provided, the improvement in players who currently the squad provided, tell me why signing a midfielder wouldn't make Jordan Henderson better, wouldn't make Fabinho a bit better, wouldn't make Thiago a bit better, Keita a bit better. It wouldn't make every single midfielder a bit better by having a different option, as Louis mentioned, a box-to-box guy. Why can't we learn from Jota and apply it to the midfielders?
I'd love to sit here and say I'd be like the devil's advocate and say, oh, we don't need a midfielder. I disagree with what he's saying, but we should. I honestly think it's a mistake. As much as I trust Klopp and I trust Pep and FSG to a certain extent, I trust the decisions they're making. It's still, I think it's the wrong one. But that's just me. Going slightly back to a point we made about Jota and playing games and fitness. I honestly think the reason why Ox doesn't play more is because he needs that run of games. And I think this was the summer, if he hadn't have got injured, that we should have just gone, get lost. With all due respect to Ox, lovely, seems like a lovely guy, not good enough for Liverpool Football Club. So I think this is a summer we should have gone, right, Ox, there you are, out the door, 10, 12, whatever, however many millions you want for him, and then gone, right, I'm putting all of my eggs in one basket. I'm going to go out and buy either Jude or I'm going to buy whoever the heck you want to buy, whether it's a stopgap or the right guy, the main one who's going to be in that midfield for the next 10 years. This is what we should have done. So yeah, I noticed you brought that little book there. I'm currently reading it at the moment. It's a very good read. It's a very good read, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more content on it coming up as well. But yeah, like I say, we need a midfielder. I think this is a big year for Curtis Jones. This is the year that Curtis Jones is again another guy who's really got to step up. As much as I'm sure we've talked about previously, he's happy being that squad player, being the Scouser, he's homegrown. He's happy in that position. He needs to step up. Is this the time, maybe next season, where he sits and thinks, do I need to walk away from Liverpool Football Club in order to make my senior career? Because you see a lot of Scousers who come through, a lot of local lads who come through, are happy. They're happy sitting at Liverpool Football Club. And as much as I'd love, and I'd pay the club millions and millions of pounds if I could afford it just to sit on the bench for 30 seconds. Not even play, just to sit on the bench. But when you're in that position, you need to sit there and think, and take a step back and think about this rationally. Do I need to leave Liverpool Football Club in order to have a successful playing time and have more games? And I think next season is the year that Curtis Jones might need to ask him.
It's very interesting, the squad building and again, Jay, I'm figuring out another way to relate this to Jota, the midfield dilemma. It seems like the squad building is so good, but we always kind of just go one step short. We just kind of say we're comfortable going just a tiny bit short from where we could go. You think back to 2 seasons ago now, could have signed one extra center back 6 months early, and maybe our season looks a little bit different after we have that center back crisis. Midfielder, maybe we signed one last season, maybe the year looks a little bit different. We kind of have always gone one short, and again, we've challenged for titles, we've won a lot of titles, so it's not like we failed, Jay, but you look at how well we've managed kind of the forward rotation with Jota now signing a new deal, going to be able to push Nunez, Diaz, Salah in different ways. Why isn't there midfielder being signed? Because Tino makes a lot of good points with Jones, with Ox. Is it as simple as we don't have a good option, we want to wait for Jude? Or do you think that it's just a belief in Elliott? Or do you have a different theory altogether on why we're making this midfield choice?
I think you're right with parts of that. I think what we do sometimes is we fail to capitalise on what we've achieved. So when we won the Premier League, you think of the great Premier League teams of the Premier League era, Chelsea, United, City, they all win the league, and next season they all improve. They all sign players to stay at that level and to keep everyone else on their toes. I think that's where we fall short sometimes. When we won the Champions League, we should have probably brought 1 or 2 players in that can go straight into the side, or at least fight to go straight in the side. And then same with the Premier League. You touched on the situation we had at centre-half the other year. That was ridiculous. We should never have been able to get in that position where we had to bring through Reece Williams and Long Kabak and sign a player who only done the museum tour, never actually played a minute of football. So, yeah, it is. I think the reason we've done it this year, honestly, is because Klopp's hell-bent on getting the one person he wants. Now, obviously, we all say Bellingham. If that is who he wants, it looks to me like he's done what he's done with Van Dijk. He'd rather wait than just get someone in. The only problem for me is I think you can still sign midfielders that aren't stopgaps. There's still midfielders available that improve what we've got already. There is midfielders out there that are better or more reliable than Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain. I don't want to say Curtis because he's young and he doesn't need opportunities, but that's not a stopgap. If the player you sign is better than what you've got, it's improving your squad, which is where I think sometimes fans argue with each other about it, because not getting your main man doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a stopgap if you're still improving your side. And like I said, the only reason I think we've not signed a midfielder is because it's a similar situation to the Van Dijk one. He's waiting for the man that he wants.
That one turned out quite well. So if our midfield signing turns out as well as that signing does, maybe we can rue what could have been if we'd done it a bit earlier. But if it pans out that well in the long term, that's not the worst case. Just on Jones, I just find this is an interesting one. There was the image of him with the boot on his right foot. I forget, maybe it was his left foot. It was 50-50 guess. Let's hope I flipped the coin. I was right there. Is a loan the right choice for him? I think it's in a spot where he's not guaranteed minutes here. He may need this kind of just week in, week out football at a lower level. Louis, for you, what's the situation? What's your choice for Curtis Jones?
I'd keep him. We are in all 4 competitions again. There's going to be plenty of minutes about. It's obviously not the best outlook to have, but as a player who doesn't get as many minutes, injuries can be your best mate. A couple of injuries here and there, and Jones is suddenly second, third choice midfielder and fills one of those positions. So that won't be at the top of his head, obviously, but it's a realistic way of looking at it. I think he's still young, so maybe a loan could be helpful to him. Where he would go, I don't think they'd want to send him to a championship club. I don't think they would. They want him to go to the Prem, but then which Premier League club is he going to go to that isn't on the back foot most of the game? And therefore, that's completely unlike how we play. So it would hinder his development more than we think it might improve it. So I think his best bet is to stick around here and continue to fight. I mean, I think a lot of people's tepidness towards Jones is that they don't, and I don't necessarily either, know exactly what he is or what Klopp is trying to mould him into. There's clearly a plan there. And I think, Jones, Elliott, Oxlade-Chamberlain at the moment probably are backup midfielders as it stands right now. They're all very different I think, if we went around the four of us and described each of them, I think we'd all probably describe them relatively differently. Like that, none of them offer the exact same thing or do the exact same job currently. So I think that's important to keep around. And I feel like we need to have some more patience with Curtis Jones. I think he's getting a bad rap, and it's getting into that territory where people are waiting for him to make a mistake. People are now coming to the conclusion, and anything he does wrong is going to feed into that, rather than thinking, oh, he's actually played well, made a couple of mistakes here and there, and that's that. Similar to like Henderson's performance in the Community Shield. Some people think he did really, really well. Others think he was crap. Off the top of my head, I can think of one or two misplaced passes which made him look like a bit of a tit. You go into a game expecting Henderson to be bad. You see them, and you've been proved correct. But football is a 90-minute game, and I'm sure he did other things in that game which were very good as well. So this is not me saying we don't need a new midfielder. I'm just saying the options we've got currently, there's still time for them to prove themselves. But for the here and now, maybe we do need someone to come in and just really make it their own. I don't know. That's what I mean. I'm so indecisive. I can't give you an answer.
It's a tough situation. It's really kind of a balancing act. For the last few questions I had are looking at the long term. All right, Tino, I'm tossing you a scenario. Loan to Villa for a year. He works with Steven Gerrard, and it helps him when Steven Gerrard takes over in 2026. Is this the perfect scenario?
The one thing I have with the issue with that scenario is that, if I'm being brutally honest, I don't want Steven Gerrard to take over as Liverpool manager, period. Ooh. Ever. Like, not once. And you can clip this all you want, and you can throw this on social media. I do not want Steven Gerrard to take over as Liverpool manager, because the moment it goes slightly wrong, his reputation's not tarnished, but muddied slightly. And I don't just want to give him the job because he's a Liverpool legend. He's done so much for the club, which he has, but he's got to be the right man for the job. If in 2026 or whenever Klopp's contract runs out, if Pep Linders is the right man for the job, give it Pep Linders. If there's another manager who's come up, who's made his way through the game, and you think, wow, that is the next best manager, give it to that manager. Don't just give it to Steven Gerrard because oh my God, he's Steven Gerrard. He's a Scouser. He's Mr. Liverpool. Like, give it to the right man who I get this is slightly going off on a tangent from the actual question, but like, give it to the right man. Give it to the guy who's going to improve the club, not just the guy who's a Liverpool legend. Going back to the actual question you answered, I think it goes back to something I tweeted a long time ago when Trent Fest got in and about Joe Gomez as well. It's about playing in the right games and in the right moments and at the right, if we're learning him at the right team, because it's all well and good just sending him to a team on loan, whether it's in this country or whether it's in one of the other top 5 leagues. It's about playing them in the right moment. It's part in part why we've sent a couple of our youngsters to like Portugal, for example, because we want them to learn. We sent, was it Owen Beck? Maybe. Yes. We sent him to Portugal because we want him to learn the tactical side of things as well, and we want him to learn that side of the game rather than just playing minutes. So if we're going to learn Curtis Jones out, it's got to be to not just let's learn him to Aston Villa because of Steven Gerrard. Let's learn him to the right club, and let's make sure he's playing in the right games at the right moments, because we want to really mould him into this star player who's going to be in our midfield for the next 10 years. In theory, that's what you do with every player. Some players might not make it, some players might, but you've got to pick the right moments and the right players and the right teams in order to try and make sure their development is on the path that it should be.
Tino, I think you're missing the real reason for that Beck loan. And so he learns Portuguese, so we make more science from the Portuguese league. They bet into the squad much easier.
So he's just gonna quit football and become one of our scouts in Portugal.
Yep, ambassadors.
That's the idea. That's the idea. Perfect.
He's a mole.
Exactly. So clever. He's playing against him week in, week out. All right, this Mateus Nunes guy, he's pretty good. We should actually sign him and say, oh, he took my spot in the squad now. That's kind of a bit of a shame. The last question I had is bringing it back to the man in the title, Diogo Jota. Looking at the long term, he's 25. He's just signed a contract for 5 years. Let's go 4 years in the future. Jurgen Klopp, his contract expires. He departs the club. Jota will have 1 year left on his contract, assuming he doesn't renew, doesn't leave. What has he done in those 4 years, Jay? How much has he played? How much has he started? Has he broken into the lineup by then? What is the 4 years from now long term look for Diogo Jota?
Hard question, mate, because anything can happen. He could have a terrible injury, or one of the other front three could, and he could become the main man. But in an ideal world, mate, in 4 years, he's got at least 2 Premier League titles and a Champions League in there. And this is why it's a hard question, mate, because come that time, if he has achieved that, he might feel like Mane and think, you know what, I've won it all here now. I want a new challenge. I'm 29, pushing 30. I just want a bumper contract now. You've seen how long it took us to give Salah one, so you might be waiting a while to get a bumper deal at 30. But yeah, mate, I think he'll have had a successful career. I really like Jota. I think he's underappreciated, and yeah, having him in the squad's a great thing. I think he's a boss player. So yeah, like I said, I hope he's 2 Premier League titles richer and at least a Champions League title richer come that time.
Anthony has much higher expectations than you, Jay. He's saying he wants 4 of each in the next 4 years. So, you know.
So slightly. Well,
I mean, who would complain? Yeah, 4 quadruples as well. I mean, like, you know, a quadruple of quadruples. Just it's perfect, isn't it? Look, I'll move a different direction rather than team success individual. Just looking at the guys in front of him in that lineup and the guys coming up, you know, maybe even tossing like a Cade Gordon, at Harvey Elliott as a potential forward option, Carvalho as a potential forward option. Has he broken? And I get it's a squad game, and with 5 subs, he'll be in and involved. Has he become a starter in those 4 years? A nailed-on starter in those 4 years? Just let's assume no injuries. It's a tough assumption, but assuming no injuries of the current guys, how is that balance kind of shaped up in your head?
I don't think Jota's ever going to be in the conversations that Mane and Salah were in. And Salah still is in terms of being the best of the best. I think he's going to be an incredibly, and I don't mean this to sound mediocre, an incredibly competent goal scorer and striker for us. And that's a compliment that I give him there. I think he's going to be very reliable, bar injury, which, you know, is out of our control. When he's in and around that first team, he's going to get us goals. He's going to make things happen. I think this is probably, I'm going to make a wild prediction, and you can come back to this in 4 years' time. I think this is probably his last contract. I think it gets to 2026. He's 25 now, so 2026 he's 28, 29. We'd probably look to cash in on him. In all honesty, maybe he signs an extension so that we guaranteed get that extra bit of money. But I think 2027 will be the last days of Diogo Jota, and that's got nothing to do with his ability. It's just our financial model. I think it's perfect. We signed him, and I think Hyler put it earlier, about 90k a week. He's done 2 years, proved himself. He's got his new contract, probably 150, 180 tops. If we get that, we get him until 2027 on that. That's great business for us. Bought him for, how much did we buy him for again? 40
million.
40, I think, yeah.
Probably if he continues an upward trajectory, probably age dependent, get the same, if not a bit more for him, maybe 60 million. I don't know. That in our financial structure, that's a great bit of business. And that's how I personally see things going in 4 years' time. So make sure, we're all going to be here then, definitely. So please do click this up, and we'll come back to it. I'll start the countdown.
Only us could, on the same day of his contract extension, be talking about when he's leaving the club. We're fast tracking his career. All right, buddy, I know you're here for another 5 years. When are you going now? When are you leaving? Tino, I'll give you the same question. Kind of look into the long term. Take it however you want. What is, the development of Jota look like? The squad development look like? Because he's in an interesting spot. It's not a bad one or a good one. It's a very interesting one for me, at least. Your perspective on it.
That's a tough question. I don't think he will ever be Liverpool's starting striker. I don't think, or starting anywhere on the front three long term. I don't think that's what is in this squad. I don't think he's got the unless he drastically changes and improves and gets onto that Salah level, onto that Mane level. I don't think he's the type of guy who will reach that heights. He said in when the contract was announced that he came in and he wanted to establish himself as an important first team player, and that's what he's done since he came in. But I don't see him going any further than being a squad rotation player. I really don't. I think he's a quality player, a phenomenal player, and what he's done so far has been brilliant. I don't see him that guy to really push to that elite level that Salah and Mane have done, and even Salah to an even further level with the stats that he's produced. I think he's going to be in the same or maybe a similar category as Bobby is currently, which is phenomenal player, unbelievably important stylistically and what we've achieved, but he's Salah and Mane are just that level above, just that level above, and I don't see him going anywhere higher than that, or anywhere higher than he currently is.
Yeah, I think the ceiling for Jota is very interesting. I'd be inclined to agree with you, Tina, but if anyone could burst that ceiling open and bring him to a new level, I think it is this club. Ending things off, just kind of a final thoughts on Jota, on the impending season. Jay, I'll go to you first with it. Just final thoughts in general.
Just really positive, mate. Tino was saying before about Jota probably won't get rushed back till middle of September, end of September, which I agreed with, and said probably after the international break. The great thing is that we're in a position where we can wait for him to get fit. A couple of seasons ago, we'd have probably started throw him straight in because we were short of options and short of proper goal scorers. So it's all around positive, mate. We've got him tied down for another couple of years, and we've got bags of options there up front now as well. So yeah, positive all around.
Louis, for you, final thoughts.
Yes, very good. No, it's just exciting, isn't it? It's a great way to kind of go into that new season. I think a lot of people would have preferred to have a surprise midfielder signing announcement, but Jota committing is another important step in that phase 2 really developing. I think he's definitely a part of that. Only being 25, he's got a good 4 or 5 years on the likes of Mo Salah, Bobby Firmino, etc. So whilst I completely agree with Seb, I don't think he's ever going to be our starting, leading the line striker. He could very well go on long spells of being in the starting 11, but he's never going to be that Nunes, that Torres, that Suarez. But he doesn't need to be. Not every single player needs to be that to be a roaring success at your club. And Jota's already proved that, in and around the Golden Boot or, second place for a very, very long time. An unbelievable goal record. And with not always being in the starting 11 for quite large parts of it. So he's going to be big. He's going to be big in his own way for us.
If all else fails, just bring him in for the Arsenal match, bag a brace. As simple as that. Tino, your final thoughts.
I don't want to end on hate because I do love Diogo Jota. I think he's a phenomenal player. And I'm going to apologise to Steve personally in the chat. like I say, he's a rotation player. And I think the timing was quite good with his injuries. Maybe we could have left it until like the week before the transfer window ends, to say, here's this big, huge announcement that we've got. We're not buying a midfielder, but here's this big, huge announcement we've got. Maybe we could have done that. I know that would have probably annoyed a lot of people on social media. But yeah, I think this season, his career, I think this season particularly is going to be a huge season for him. I have no doubts that he's going to be able to progress and be that guy that with that instant impact sub. We've had plenty of them over the years who have come in and just been that substitute who is just phenomenal and the guy you turn to when you're in a difficult place. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this season. I'm looking forward to winning the title by January, like I said earlier. And if we don't, like I said, we'll win the Champions League. So it'll all be good.
By January as well.
By January as well. Exactly. Every club will go bust and we'll win the Champions League by January.
By default. Hey,
exactly.
that's a win in its own way. It's been a good stream, boys. The next few days are very, very exciting ones. So tomorrow, award predictions. Your golden gloves, your golden boots. It's a golden themed stream. Make sure you tune in for that. 7:30 p.m. UK time tomorrow. On Thursday, Premier League predictions 1 through 20. Last year we did kind of a tier list. We didn't have to get into the nitty gritties of is it Crystal Palace or Brighton for 11th or 12th. That's just an example, and that's not my actual prediction yet. Make sure you get involved with that, 7:30 p.m. on Thursday. On Friday, we preview the Fulham match, which is the following morning for me, 7:30 a.m. for me on Saturday. But Louis will have the watch along for that, making the incredible trip to make it work in his schedule. That'll be happening 12:30 p.m. UK time on Saturday
with a travel lodge.
with a post-game stream to follow after that. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you're notified when we go live, or just look at your clock. And it will be either during the Liverpool match, after the Liverpool match, or at 7:30 p.m. UK time. So, but for myself, Jack, for Jay, for Tino, and for Louis, that does it for our stream here today on the LFC Transfer Room.